Hi everybody, Colin Stevenson here, joined today with my hero, John Lenhart. Hi John.
Hi.
Today we're going to talk about conjunctives. Conjunctives are the third part in our truth series. So we first had truth, we had then contrastive thinking, and now we have conjunctives. John, would you like to tell us about conjunctives, please?
Right. So this is a huge topic, and we've been talking about it all along. We've been referencing it through all of our other videos. So now it's finally time to kind of pull it together here. So we saw last week that the way to determine truth is contrastively. Basically, you take all the possible answers you could have and you start eliminating each one. And if you take all the answers that are possible and you eliminate everything that's not true, the answer you're left with is true. That is the way to determine truth. That is the scientific method, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And people would like a shortcut in determining what's truth.
Yeah.
So a conjunctive is a shortcut. And what a conjunctive is basically, if you imagine two overlapping circles, the spot where they overlap is what we call the conjunctive. This is my shortcut to like being right. I'm not a genius, but I can take on people who are a genius because everything they say, I go, is it in the right circle? Is it a left circle? Or is it in the conjunctive? And if it's not in the conjunctive, I can take apart anybody's argument. So this is a huge cheat code and shortcut for determining truth, because every truth has an equation and it follows a conjunctive. And that equation is freedom with one limitation. Every truth has only one limitation.
Okay, so you had written an article before, and on the cover of that article, we had the two circles, and I'm sure there was truth, flow, and what was the other one that was in it?
Happiness.
Yes. Now, if we always get the truth, we're always happy, and that's fact. If we live our truth, we are happy. And I actually used that and mentioned process in it when I used it online to show people. And there were only certain people, I believe, that got it. And just going back to another one of your articles before, you spoke about ikigai, okay? And these are the four circles that come in, but again, there's that part in the middle where they all overlap that actually comes into our living our truth, where we're living the truth for not just us, but everybody else. So when you're talking about the conjunctives and the overlaps, for me, that is the shortcut. But we've got to find, obviously, our shortcut, because everyone's shortcut is individual to themselves. You know, and I think there's a lot of people missing that out.
Right, and that's why half of a conjunctive is freedom. That's where the uniqueness comes in. So if you think about it, there's two circles, and the article you mentioned has a list of attributes in both circles to help you diagnose it. I'll give you a couple real quick. In the freedom half, you have basically everything that's tangible, everything that's qualitative, everything that's a release, everything where you give up control. In the limitation half, you have the intangible, truly your thought process, the quantitative, and the tension. So the example I like to use is with liberty and justice for all. So liberty is the freedom and justice is the one limitation. If all of us lived with liberty and justice for all in the conjunctive, we would never have another problem. We could all be happy forever. So what happens? Well, one person, the king or the leader, says, you know what? I think I would be happier living with no limitations. And the minute they move to the no limitation circle, they push everybody into the limitation circle, because now everybody has two limitations. When the king says he wants to live without limitation, I now have the limitation of justice for all and not justice towards the king. So the issue is happiness and flow, and life's biggest issues, all of life's biggest questions are answered in a conjunctive, which means the answer is never the most or the least. Whenever I hear someone say, you need to do this, well, in some cases, not all, I'm thinking you're stating a conjunctive and you're not smart enough to know about conjunctives. So now you can't intentionally help people get into conjunctive. And what ruins us is people who think having no limitations is going to make them happy, because the minute they have no limitations, they push all of us into limitation.
Absolutely. Now, while we're talking about human beings, I'd like to talk about animals for a second, okay? Because animals act the way that humans are programmed, okay? Through certain systems, humans are programmed. So whether it's the schooling systems, the justice systems, we're programmed like animals, and it's our choice to be able to step out of that. Now, if we look at, say, a dog, I love all animals, okay? But if we look at a dog and we look at a trained dog, okay, and we look at a dog that is not trained, okay, which one is more free? I believe it's a dog that's trained, because they have a limitation, which means they can't be violent, for talking's sake, but they can live their life, they can play, they can be loved, and they can be part of that family. A dog that's not been trained is literally just free to do what they want. They're not happy because they don't know what to do. They're all over the place. Now, moving this back to the human brain, okay, we can't really compare humans to animals, but we can, because of the way that humans are programmed. It's like, what I believe is, like, the humans that are not training themselves or being trained on a level where they're understanding their unconscious, their behavior and truth, conjunctive, all these things that are very important, will never be happy.
Right. The way I say it is if you imagine driving a car on a road that's on a cliff.
Yeah.
The conjunctive would be drive as fast as you want, as long as you don't touch the guardrail. The thing is that people, if you think that the guardrail is a limitation, if you think having no limitations is fun, then you think driving off the cliff is fun.
Yeah.
The proof of maturity, one of my, shortcuts is, when I'm looking at somebody, is I see how much they embrace one limitation. The most mature people embrace one limitation, because then they're completely safe. The limitation is what keeps you safe. Without a limitation, this is the way I'd say your dog analogy, without the limitation, that wild dog is not safe to be around.
Yeah.
So with humans, it's the same way. So when I see all these people talking about freedom and there's no limitations, if I was present, I'd poke him in the eye and say, hey, it's fun living with freedom, isn't it? Wait a minute, now you want a limitation. Now you want a limitation because you want to be safe. So it's mental illness to believe that all freedom is going to keep you healthy. And that's the issue, is that, and this is how I use that to help people, because if you look at it, when I ask for a definition, if all they give is effects, I know they're in the freedom half. If they give causes, but they're contradictory, I know they're in the limitation half, and I know how to handle them. So what I say is if somebody's in the limit, if someone has more than one limitations, they will have a contradiction. Teenagers are great at this. Give a teenager 2 or more limitations, and they will come up with the case that's contradictory. Every time you have more than one limitation, you have a contradiction. If you're in the freedom half, all I have to do is say, would it be okay if I did this also? Would it be okay if I lived the same way as you? And they're saying absolutely not. When I coach people, I try to leave them in the conjunctive. It's, as long as you stay in the conjunctive, you can never get hurt.
Yep. And just while you're talking, so on a daily basis of life, is there anything that you can say to people of how they can come in with this conjunctive and actually live in it?
Right. So it is the problem in the world. If you think about it, all of life's biggest questions, definitions, addiction, self-esteem, happiness, mental health, all have to do with the conjunctive. The thing is the way to get in the conjunctive is think about what's the one limitation. And the way I say it is this, is you see this on social media all the time. There's one group of people, the limitation people, and they'll say, you people are hurting yourselves. You need to have some discipline. You're hurting yourselves. I have the truth. Here's 3 things you need to absolutely make sure you don't do every single day. And this side of the conjunctive looks that way and says, wait a minute, I may be hurting myself, but I'm not hurting other people. You're hurting other people. And you don't have the truth because you have contradictions, and there probably isn't a truth. So that's what we see on social media. 99% of people are either hurting other people or hurting themselves. When a person is in the conjunctive, when a person states the truth, everybody over here thinks this person is one of them, and they attack them. Everybody over here thinks this person is one of them, so they attack them. So here's the situation we have in the world. 99% of people don't have the truth. They don't have a conjunctive. They have contradictions. They don't talk or think contrastively. And they are wasting all of our time arguing. And when the 1% states a truth, the 99 get together and knock that person down.
Yeah.
So we have people wasting our time and preventing us from hearing the truth. That is the problem in the world. That was the whole point of my post. And the fact that people couldn't grasp it shows how entrenched they are in either I'm a limitation guy or I'm a total freedom guy.
Yeah, and this is where people, because they're so, would you look at that towards the kind of right and left side of the brain? I know that we use all of our brain at the one time. We've covered that, but would you say that was more kind of right or left brained, or would you say that was more just to do with their behaviors and themselves?
It's more right and left brain is big picture and small picture. It's more about like their political stance.
Right. Okay.
Hardliners are the limitation people, and the freedom people. There's in every political system, there's two parties, and they have one or the other, and they fight, and we all know neither one is true. But what's happened at least in America over time is each side is entrenched so hard that we all know neither person is right. And so the last thing I would say is that if you're trying to manage things, look at what the one limitation. You either, if you're in freedom, there is one limitation, you just haven't named it. And if you have a bunch of limitations, realize that you're holding yourself back, and try to figure out what the principle is. What is the one limitation that will keep you safe so that you can do that? And again, my biggest advice is to read the article. I think with this video, it kind of helps you realize that 99% of people are outside the conjunctive. And if you are willing to give up control and be contrastive, which was the last video, and look at being in the conjunctive, you'll realize how your side was wrong.
Yeah, well, with this video that we're talking about just now, I'm going to put truth, contrastive thinking in with it, and I'm also going to put the article of yours on the post as well, so they can actually see the circles. It's sometimes easier for people to be able to see the tangible, and then they're able to kind of work with it, because it's so important moving forward. And we know that there's a good possibility things are going to get worse before they get better in certain ways of the world, but it shows that the quacks, the ones that are in the 1%, you and I will be here to help people, and we're putting this out maybe 6 months, a year down the line before people think they actually need it. And it means it's always going to be there. So no, I appreciate your time today, John, and I'm sure other people will now understand where the truth and the contrastive thinking come together to cause the conjunctive. So I'm looking forward to our next video. So thank you very much indeed. Take care, John.
Bye.